that's what he would want us to be. And it's not the only time that Paul brings this up. I mean, if it was the one time, it would still be. We'd still need to learn to be content. But this is something that Paul brings up often in all of his writings. He writes 13 books in the New Testament. He brings this up and a few more. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, he brings this up. Here's what he says in chapter 12. He says, "For the sake of Christ, then, I'm content." Now listen to the circumstances he's content in. I am content with weakness. I'm content with insults. Man, I'm content with hardships. I'm content when I'm persecuted. And he's content in calamities. Now you may be thinking, Paul, like we need to see a psychiatrist if you're content with all that stuff. But Paul, it's very important. He follows up by saying this, "For when I am weak, I am strong." He brings it up again in 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy, he's writing to a young guy who's leading a church, and he is just his mentor, and he is wanting to speak into Timothy so he would lead well. He brings it up again in 1 Timothy chapter 6. In 1 Timothy chapter 6, he brings up this idea of contentment again, like it's something that he says, hey, this is something you need to chase after. Now there is great gain with godliness with contentment. Now there is great gain in godliness with contentment. He gets really practical here. If we brought nothing into the world, then we can't take anything out of the world. But you know what? If we have food and clothing, with these we'll be content. Hebrews, it brings it up again. Hebrews 13:5, he says this, "Keep your life free from the love of money. Just be content with what you have. For he said, I will never leave you nor forsake you." See, the Bible and Paul and God are just, they're concerned that we'd be content Christians. Like it's a significant thing that we would realize that we don't need anything else more than Jesus. You know what I'm also learning about being content is that it's learned. I know that sounds like Merriam-Webster wrote that, but that was me, okay? I apologize for that. You see, contentment's not something that comes to us naturally. If you've had kids, you know this, as even a 1 or 2-year-old, you realize that they are not born content, right? Like we could go in the nursery right now and you would be able to see some babies that are probably content and some others that are not content, right? Side plug, we need some more help in the nursery if you'd like to go in there. We'd love your help, and you can learn all about discontent and contentment. But we are prone. Aren't we so prone to compare ourselves to other people? Man, we don't want to do it, but we do. We're so prone to like always want more than we have. We're so prone to complain, and you don't have to teach us any of those things. Like every 2-year-old knows those. But here's what needs to happen. It's not so with content. Like we don't grow up knowing what that is. We have to learn it. Like contentment is not natural. It is not natural. It's something that we have to learn over time. It's this journey. And I believe this. I believe Paul, he moved from a state of not being content to being content, to knowing contentment. I suspect that Paul probably learned this gradually. That he learned to be content. If you look back at the verses we read, he makes it clear that this is learned. Verse 12, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. For I have learned the secret of being content in every situation. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or living in want. We got to learn some things. I've got to learn some things to have contentment rush into my life. I've got to continue to focus on Jesus in this journey, and help me be content. This next point, last point actually, is the big one. Kind of save the best for last. And, you know, today I could give you some strategies to practice being content. I could do it. Like I'd probably, if I was going to go that route, I would probably I'd talk about gratitude a lot and how if we're thankful, like we're a lot more content. Totally true. I agree with that 100%. I'd probably have here's something you could do. Like I'd probably say, you know what, you could also just realize life's not about things. We could go that route, and I could give you some points in the story on that. And I could probably give you one that's close to like the grass is always greener on the other side. I could probably point to like James chapter 4, I think, where he talks about that life's a vapor and it's short, and like focus on what matters. But today what I'd love to do is give you the secret to contentment. I mean, I could stand up here and I could give you like strategies and hacks and 4 ways to contentment, but here's what I want to do today. I want to give you the secret that Paul's talking about here today. You see, what I'm learning is that the secret to contentment is, and you probably wishing I could have just started with that and we could have made this a lot shorter, right?